Thanks to EA for sponsoring this video. Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another Sims 4 video. You have no idea how excited I am because in today's Sims 4 speed build I'm working on Wisteria Lane from the TV show Desperate Housewives. This has been a long time coming. Not only is this one of my favorite TV shows ever, but it's also something I've talked about a lot on this channel. The show is set in a seemingly perfect suburban neighborhood, and every time I worked on a dreamy suburban home, I couldn't help but mention Desperate Housewives. Well, today's the day I'm finally building Wisteria Lane, and this is part 1 where I'm working on the complete exterior, and in part 2 I'm going to furnish the interior. Before we continue, remember to use code EMERALD when shopping Sims 4 packs to support me and my channel. Add a pack to your cart, enter EMERALD, and apply the code. Right now there's a special promotion where you will save 5% on Sims 4 packs with my code. Thank you so much for your support. So let's see how I built this. Here I'm working on Susan's home, and this is my second attempt on this build. So here I started with Susan's home, and then I'm going to add more houses, and my first attempt failed. I knew that it would be really difficult to squeeze all these houses onto one lot, even though it's a 64 by 64 lot. And my first attempt failed, and I didn't manage to include Lynette's home, the Scavo home, so I started over. And I then understood that I really had to make some sacrifices, and this sacrifice here is sadly 4351 Wisteria Lane, which is also known as the Mullin's home. Bob and Lee lived in the house in the show, also Betty Applewhite, and the Mullin's home is located between Gabby's and Susan's house. The problem is that we have 4 main characters initially when the show starts, and Susan, Gabby, and Lynette all live on one side of the street, and then Bree is living across the street. So I had 3 main houses, which I totally had to include here, and then the Mullin's home is kind of in between. My compromise, as you will see, is to still include the home, but I had to move it like into the corner of the lot, and I then connected it to the street, so it's still there and it can be used, but it looks a bit like Gabby's house being right next to Susan's. Like 4351 Wisteria Lane is like a little bit hidden in the back, but I still included it. I wanted to really replicate the order of the homes, so it's like a good replica, but at the same time, like I just had to make it work. I thought, okay, I'm going to include the main homes, and then at one point the street is kind of cut off, basically, if that makes sense. So I couldn't include Edie's home, for example, and you have no idea how much I wished for a gigantic lot. I don't know, 200 by 200, I don't know. I would have loved to really include every single home, but yeah, this is how I managed to do this, and I'm just so excited to finally show you this. Like, really, I like already teased this in a community post, and I can finally show you what I'm doing here. My approach for this build was very different. First of all, I looked up lots of references, like there are different plans of the street, so you can really see where everything is located. I watched like YouTube videos where someone toured the set, so I really knew how to do this. And I then just started to build the exteriors without adding any detail. You can see that they like look very basic still, like these houses. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get the dimensions right, the shape, and I can then like decorate. So Susan's home is like finished, like the draft is finished here, and also the Scavo home. And I then just moved on to the next house, and this way I knew that the build would make sense. I thought, okay, I'm laying out everything and I can then start to work on the details. I just didn't want to run into the same issue again, because I thought, okay, if I have to start over, I like haven't decorated everything heavily. So here I'm just really laying out the general layout of Wisteria Lane. This here is the Mullin's home I mentioned. It looks really cute, and yeah, this one is like sitting in the corner, and I'm going to move it to the back. Right next to it, I'm going to build Gabby's home, and Gabby's home is like diagonal, and I feel like it's the most iconic home on Wisteria Lane by far. I love it so much, and I just wanted this to be really prominently featured in the build, and I also feel like Gabby's home is like sitting at the end of the street, and it's so iconic, and if it's not in the right spot, it's not going to look like Wisteria Lane. So the Mullin's home sadly had to be moved to the back, and yeah, here I'm working on the Solis home, on Gabby's home, and I was heavily looking at references, and I was like pretty quick here because at this point, as I said, like this is the second attempt, so I had already kind of figured out how to build this. It was still really difficult. I'm like totally not an expert when it comes to replicas. I love to build a lot, but I also love to do like some really over the top stuff. I like to improvise, and I just do whatever I want. So really following a reference was really difficult here because it just had to look like the real deal. And I'm going to tell you what's the biggest issue with a build like this in general. You can only have one wall height for each level, so you cannot have like individual wall heights for each little separate building here. So I had to set my heart on a wall height, and in my first attempt I had used the mid wall height for the level at the bottom, but this was also because I had started to work on Gabby's home first, and Gabby's home is like really grand and also really tall, and the proportions were like really good for Gabby's home when I was using the mid wall height, but then when it came to the like cozier cute homes like Susan's home, it wasn't working out at all anymore. So here I just used the lowest wall height for every single floor. This just made sense for this suburban cute layout, and I then used some tricks for Gabby's home. As you can here see, I just used a wall at the bottom. I applied some wall decorations from high school years. I then deleted the wall, and this way you can see that the whole like level looks thicker. It just adds a bit of height, and visually it just makes more sense when you look at the reference. When you look at Gabby's home, there's also like this balcony at the top which has like this really thick trim going around it, and I was trying to replicate it using these high school years wall decorations. And Gabby's home is really yellow, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to use these pillars. They are not like ideal for this. They have a different style because of like these rocks at the bottom, this type of texture, but I just had to see how to make this work, and it was so fun and challenging. Like I really loved this. I just love how colorful everything is on Wisteria Lane, and there's like such a difference when you look up like the show, of course, in general, or old tours of the set when the show was still in production compared to what it looks like now. Like you can find more recent tours on YouTube where people are showing Colonial Street at Universal Studios, and when the show was shot, the houses were so colorful. Like Gabby's house is so yellow, for example. Susan's house like also has a yellow color. Bree's home is like really blue on the outside. The Scavo home is green. And nowadays, all these colors are like so toned down, diluted. Like Gabby's house went from yellow to beige, essentially. The blue homes went from blue to gray. And all the wisteria was removed, which was like why the street was called that. Like they had all these fake plants on the set, like wisteria everywhere. But of course, I gave this build the Desperate Housewives treatment, so everything is just as colorful as it used to be in the show. And also, if you have never watched it, first of all, I totally recommend that you watch Desperate Housewives if you are into this type of show. Also, no spoilers here, please. Also, not in the comments, like for anyone who hasn't watched the show yet. It's a classic and it's so fun. I feel like it's the perfect combination of a sitcom. So you have like these really fun and good vibes, as if you were watching, I don't know, Modern Family or Malcolm in the Middle or something. So it's like really upbeat and just really like not too dramatic, just like really chill and fun to watch. But then you have like the other side of the show, which is like really dramatic and dark and sometimes scary. So it's like a nice mix. So it kind of feels like you're watching a nice, fun, bubbly sitcom, but also a drama at the same time. Like that's what it is. And that's so cool and clever because look at the set. Like it's so perfect. It's like the perfect vision of suburbia. It's like so over the top perfect and cheesy. And then below the surface, all the bad stuff happens. And this is kind of the way it is in real life. Oftentimes people pretend they have like these perfect lives, and then below the surface some bad stuff happens or some dark stuff. But of course everything is like totally exaggerated here. Like the way this street looks is exaggerated, the drama is exaggerated. In real life, everything is like not as over the top. So the street might look nice, but not so over the top. The drama might be bad, but not as dramatic as portrayed in the show. But this is kind of the essence. So it's like perfect suburbia on the surface and some dark secrets below the surface, which makes it so fun. But for me, like, I love to build and I love sets. Like I have this weird obsession with movie, TV show sets. I don't know, I think it's so interesting. And as soon as I watched the show for the first time back then, I was so intrigued by the set that I just couldn't stop watching. I don't know, I just love the way it looks. And I know that it's like over exaggerated on purpose to really like, I just explained it, like this is kind of the vibe, but it's looking so perfect. Like you're in a theme park. Like it's like Disney. It's like Disney's version of suburbia. And I think there is even like a little town which is owned by Disney, which is like kind of similar. And I bet it's like not really nice to live in a place like this in real life because it's probably like super overregulated and everything. And it might be a bit like Desperate Housewives, like all the neighbors talking and stuff, but it like visually it's like eye candy. Like I love it so much. And this is the Delfino house. This is Mike's house and it's located right next to Bree's home. And as you just saw, I also included the iconic garage, which is part of Bree's home. And at this point, I was so happy because after adding this house or the shape, because it's like still not well decorated, I knew that it would work out. Like I knew, okay, I've included all the important homes. At this point, all 4 main houses are included. I even managed to include Mike's home, and I thought, okay, this is going to work out. My like initial plan before the first attempt was to trace the shape of the real street to 100% replicate the shape, but I then like started to realize that I just have to wing it a little bit. So even here, after finishing all these homes, I like had to rearrange them a little bit because we have the move house feature, so you can like build a building and then move it on a lot, which was so helpful here. Like even then I understood, okay, this is not going to be like 100%. This here is the young home, and you can see that it's like sitting in the curve of the street. I had to curve it because like not only does Wisteria Lane like have a curve, especially like right at Gabby's home because it's like diagonal, but like the young house is like not sitting in the curve. Like usually the street would be straight in front of the young house, so there are like some compromises again, but it's still looking good. Like here I changed the train paint a little bit to make the street a little bit straighter in front of the young house, but I feel like this is like only a small compromise. It's still looking like the real deal. And I then also added this little balcony to the garage, and I was still just trying to lay out the general shape. I'm also going to make some changes to this. I started to decorate a bit, and I had so much fun with this because here at this point I knew, okay, this is working out. I've built all the houses. I can now decorate more, add other stuff. And also I was able to make the actual street happen because this is Wisteria Lane. And so far we only have random buildings and the street wasn't decorated and it's just a little bit of terrain paint. And here you will notice some random items popping up every now and then. without recording, I was just scrolling through debug and I've added so much to find the correct flowers, hedges, fences, just different things. And again, following the reference. So when you look at Bree's home, like she has this like walkway like in front of the house leading up to the door. She has these beautiful flowers, and I was just trying to make it look very similar. In real life, you would have like more space in between the homes probably, but here, because I had to squeeze everything in, everything is like really connected and really close to each other kind of. And I then used the good old base game debug break, as we like to call it on this channel. It's a bag of flour. It can be found in debug, and I love to use it to create a path. And I just did this to like make it look really polished and beautiful. And I personally think what's so cool about this build is that it could be used by anyone. You don't have to be into Desperate Housewives in order to use this build. I feel like some replicas are really specific and you kind of have to be into the source material in order to like really be able to use a build. Maybe this also applies to the Barbie builds I've created. Like you might have to be into Barbie or into the color pink because it's like really over the top. But this is just a really cute suburban street, really over the top in terms of how cheesy and colorful and cute this is, because this is just what Wisteria Lane is. But it could be used by anyone. You could use for rent to really make this functional. Anything is possible, and I feel like this is so fun about this build. Also, please feel free to like let me know in the comments which are your favorite characters. What does Desperate Housewives mean to you? Did you watch it when it originally came out? Did you watch it later? Have you never watched it and now you want to watch it? Or maybe you watched it but you weren't into it and stopped. Just let me know everything. But please, like, no spoilers, no major plot points or anything. I know that everyone is like different when it comes to this. Like people have different opinions as always, but like personally, I'm like, I have a no spoiler policy. Like I would never spoil anything, no matter how old a movie, TV show or book is. I never do this because I feel like this is like timeless. Like anything can be timeless. You could watch Breakfast at Tiffany's now, and it's like so vintage, but it's like your first time watching it. And I mean, this might be like one of the exceptions because I feel like some pieces of media are so iconic that everyone just knows the plot and what's going on. So this might be a bad example. But like for Desperate Housewives, like it came out 20 years ago or 21 years ago now. And like there were people like who weren't born when it came out who are like now watching it maybe. Like I feel like I don't like spoilers, but I know a lot of people think there's like a grace period and then after a while you are free to talk about everything. And I mean, you do you. This is just how I see things. You can also like, of course, let me know how you view this and what you think. But yeah, I'm just so excited to like talk about Desperate Housewives. And I'm also so excited to show you part 2 where I will be finishing this. And I stayed as close as possible to the source material, which was so difficult. You know, I can be chaotic. I do random stuff and not everything makes sense. And also like there are so many open floor plan kitchens, not because it's me, but because of the source material, like Susan's home, for example, or the Scavo home. Like it's like a bit separated, but it's still open floor plan. And yeah, I just had so much fun. I'm just so excited. Like, what a fun way to kick off the year on this channel. And yeah, here I'm working on the Scavo home. I just decorated the exterior of Susan's home, and these houses, like, most of them have no gardens. Like Bree's home has like a small garden, but like I was running out of space, and also in the show it's just a backlot. And like I'm rewatching the show right now, like currently, like I like to watch one episode to fall asleep, and I noticed like Susan was reading a book, for example, and she was just chilling in her front yard because that's the set and it's just the houses in the front yard. And of course the interior was like created on a sound stage, but I thought it's like so funny to just randomly chill in your front yard like this, and like not on the patio or something. It looked really random, but I just had to think of this because when I was building this, I was running out of space. There were no gardens, and I thought, okay, it's fine. Susan can clearly like sit in the front yard and read a book, so why not? In the show, there's also like a little cul-de-sac on the right side, and this is where Edie Britt's house would be located. And inside the cul-de-sac, there's like a small park, and it's also used in different episodes, so people gather there. And I guess this would be like the backyard vibe. I'm not sure right now if we ever see like a proper backyard in the show ever. I could be wrong. I've watched the show like multiple times, but sometimes you just forget stuff and then you stumble upon this and you're like, oh yeah, right, this is how it is. And this is like the young house, and I was using so many debug fences for this because I had to follow the shape of the street, and using a debug fence is the easiest way to do this. And I placed these little debug bricks, as I like to call them, everywhere. And the terrain paint is from Eco Lifestyle. There's a darker one which I just used for the street, and I then included the sidewalk. And look at these cute lamps. Like, I found them in debug. They're from the base game, and they totally look like the ones, or almost like the ones we see on Wisteria Lane. And it's so iconic, I feel like, that I had to include them to really make it look like the actual street. And it was like so fun. I was so happy when I found them. And this is it. This video is slowly coming to an end. This was part 1 of recreating Desperate Housewives Wisteria Lane in The Sims 4. This was the main part of the exterior. In the next video, I'm going to do like some detail work. I'm going to add some more stuff. And of course, I'm going to furnish all the houses. So after the next video, this build will be completed here on YouTube, and after the next video, I'm also going to upload this build to the gallery once you've seen how it's furnished and everything. I'm so excited to show you part 2. I'm so excited for everything that's to come this year. Happy New Year to all of you. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen this year, the amazing stuff The Sims 4 will release, and we will have so much fun on this channel together. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you want to. I love you all so much, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.